Welcome to another episode of Reddit Wolf. Without further delay, let's jump into today's story. Left my wife due to messaging other men. 3 months ago, I found out my wife was messaging a guy at work. All day. Even at home. She said it was innocent, but turns out they were sending selfies to each other and talking about sex. Not necessarily with each other, but preference and stuff like that. I told her I was not comfortable with it. She continued messaging him. It escalated more and he called her hot. I confronted her about it and she said there was nothing wrong and I was being insecure. I ended up leaving her for a weekend and eventually we worked it out. She stopped talking to him. We were trying to work it out in therapy. 2 days ago, she told me she was messaging a new guy. I don't know him. She knows him through a friend. She messaged him and said they should be friends. I then learned later this guy is friends with another girl she has recently been hanging out with more. Not a coincidence. I told her I'm not comfortable with this. She told me she's allowed to have guy friends I don't know and didn't see anything wrong with it. She said I was being insecure. I told her it upset me. She didn't talk to me about this before she messaged him. She said she messaged him only because her friend was interested in him and it was a girl code and trying to help. I told her that didn't make sense and her friend could message him herself. She then said she wanted to be friends with him. I said I don't know him and she said she didn't care. I learned the plan was they were all going to try to get together this summer so she could go out. I'm like, and you didn't think to include me? After everything before? I can't put up with this. Too many red flags. I'm getting divorced. My wife is planning to cheat. So we have been married for 8 years now and have a 3-year-old daughter. There have been instances in the past where my wife has lied about her friendship with co-workers, but I genuinely thought that we'd turned a corner around during the pandemic. But it appears that this is not the case. My wife came to me and said that she will be having a girls' night with colleagues from work, as they've all been stressed from work and domestic responsibilities, so they just wanted to take a break for 2 days. She is supposed to go on Friday night right from work and will return on Sunday evening. I was more than happy for her to unwind and have fun. The last 2 years have been stressful for everyone, but I met the husband of the co-worker whose house she is supposed to stay, and they are all going out for a weekend trip. So I thought her trip might be cancelled, but no. My wife came home and exclaimed how excited she is for getting away during the weekend. So now I have 2 options before me. 1, confront her, and maybe she doesn't cheat now, or let her go, and be sure once and for all. I can't really decide on what to do here. What's the best way to handle the situation? Update. I have thought about it a lot, and I think I will let her go on the weekend. I don't want to do the pick-me dance with her. Also, I will meet with a divorce lawyer over the weekend just to see where I stand. I want to know if we divorce today, then what happens? Who stands to gain or lose what? What might be the custody arrangement and other stuff in divorce about which I have no idea. We don't really need a reason for divorce in my state. That much I know for sure. So I'll have a packed schedule for the weekend too, and it will be better if she's not here. And no, I'm not going to hire a PI or ask a friend to follow her. That's bonkers. Not every relationship is meant to last. Maybe we're supposed to be together for just a small while. It is what it is. Thank you for the advice. I appreciate it. Wife, 43F, cheated on me, 41M, with 29 male co-worker. I have been with my wife for the past 22 years. Met in 2000, got married in 03 due to a surprise pregnancy. We have 2 girls, 18F and 11F. Recently, I just found out she has been cheating on me with a younger co-worker since 2018. I actually found out because she went out on her birthday for a supposedly team event, but I found her 150 kilometers south of her actual event. She screwed up because she forgot we recently activated family location sharing in Google due to our eldest starting college, so everyone can see where everyone else is. They've been having adult time at various hotels, his parents' house, and in his car all throughout 2018 until 2022. Although COVID put a halt on it for a bit, but whenever the restrictions were lifted, they continued on. In 2019, she actually got pregnant with his kid and had an abortion. She even kept a digital copy of the ultrasound. I also just found, 2 days back, literally hundreds of pictures of her in various stages of undress that she has sent him. Some of the pictures were even from when we as a family went on vacations. She snuck out and took pictures. There was also a screen grab of them having S-time while me and the kids were downstairs doing game night. I've confronted both of them, and I've even gone and seen his parents as he still lives with them. The parents said that they noticed he was a bit close to my wife, but they didn't know they were having S-time. They told me I had every right to beat the S out of him. The part where I need advice is, I've been with her for 22 years. Even though this is massive betrayal, I still have some love for her. I hate myself because of this. I want to divorce her, but the thought of leaving her and screwing up the kid's life has made me second-guess myself whether we should go our separate ways. I want my youngest to have a normal life. I want my eldest to not stress out herself with this show and potentially ruin her education. I ducking hate myself right now for still being in love with her, even though she was knocked up by another man. She even asked me to choose her dress for the event she was supposedly going for. I chose the dress my wife wore for her ducking candlelight birthday dinner, yet I still have feelings for her. I hate myself. I GD hate myself. Do I suck it up for the next 6 or 10 years until my youngest finishes her high school or university education? Do I forgive her and be together? The guy you cheated with cheated on you? We had just bought our first house together and had frozen the embryos for our future children at her insistence. She never stopped saying how much she loved me and how lucky she was. I did the same, adored that woman. Then suddenly, I wasn't enough for her, and she insisted on a divorce, saying she didn't want to be monogamous anymore. I came to find out soon after that she was having an affair with a co-worker. I came across their messenger chat and saw all the horrible things she said about me and how excited she was about it all. This was the complete opposite of the person she'd be around me. Reading that stuff was probably the most traumatic moment of my life at that point. Seeing the pure betrayal from the only partner I'd ever loved still hurts to the core. I came to find out by accident 2 years later that she was still with the guy, and they bought a house together. We had to sell ours since neither of us could afford it on our own. I also found out the guy was 10 years older than her, thrice divorced, and according to one of his exes, a serial cheater and physically abusive. But of course, I couldn't say anything because it wasn't my place at that point. We were divorced now, and our embryos were thrown away. We'd had names picked out and everything. I still feel sick when I see couples that look like we did with their kids. Then recently, a friend shared a screen cap from her Instagram. She was calling out the guy for cheating on her with multiple women. She apparently deleted it quickly, but it was cathartic to see her get to feel what I felt. It must have been pretty bad, because she was never the kind of person to go on a blast like that. Who would have thought a guy like that would turn out to be a scumbag cheater? Most people don't know that he was the guy who convinced her to leave me. They just offered their support and told her how amazing she was despite what that mean guy did to her. Makes me feel ill. Wife cheated a second time. First time poster, apologies for formatting as I'm on mobile. When I was dating my wayward spouse in college, she had trouble with commitment. I knew she was ducking around with other people while we were talking. She was upfront about it, so although it hurt, I consented and stayed with her. Fast forward a year, and it seems like we were going steady as she had finally committed to me. We went to military academy and had decided on our jobs. When deciding, it seemed that our jobs may not be compatible, so we had a bit of a rough patch as we figured it out. During that time, she takes a group trip to New York City and sleeps with one of the guys in the group. I knew something was going on when she abruptly stopped texting me that night. I pressed her for details when she came back, and after multiple attempts, she told me what happened. She didn't seem very remorseful at the time, and I started to make moves to break up with her. A few weeks later, I was home on break and agreed that she could fly out to reconcile. I was naive and thought that I'd forgiven and reconciled with her even though I was still deeply hurt. Fast forward 2 years, and we got married. Those 2 years were rough, as I had a lot of resentment for her and did a few things out of spite. Things such as paying way too much for a stripper and flirting with a friend from college. Either way, we got married. I deployed for 6 months and we actually got closer. Another year goes by and we PCS. I start in a new job type at the height of COVID. The new job and the stress of moving started to affect my mental health. It further declined over the years as we raised a puppy for some friends and my parents gave us COVID and had to stay for several months. Over the following year, I struggled with suicidal ideation, and a lot of my interpersonal interactions manifested in grumpiness and anger. My wife told me recently that she felt like she was in an emotional prison. You can see where this is going. I'll be the first to admit I was a bad spouse, and the tension in our relationship was growing because of me. My wife asked that we do marriage counseling, but I dragged my feet. She soon deployed to a stateside location as a part of a task force, and she would rarely talk to me. At first we spoke somewhat regularly, but it soon declined to where I was getting maybe 1 to 7 texts from her in a day, and sometimes no messages at all for multiple days in a row. She would only talk on the phone with me on her 15-minute drive home. I knew this was odd behavior, and I brought it up regularly and gave her a chance to change her behavior. I say regularly because I'd only see a change for maybe 1 day. She came back after 4 months and it was an awkward reunion. After a couple of days we warmed up again and things were going seemingly great for 2 weeks. Now it's D-Day. She fell asleep early one night and I took the opportunity to go through her phone. The first thing I found was the AP giving her permission to have adult time with me and her responding that she wanted him inside her. I was absolutely shocked and devastated. I asked her how far it went and it was physical somewhere between 3 and 9 times. The number got smaller every time I asked. After having a crisis and calming down, we go to sleep with her on the couch. I wake up early the next morning and go through her phone again and found 2 other men she was texting with and so many nudes. Some taken while everything was seemingly going great. I ended up hospitalized for suicidal ideation. I finally start to get better and we start talking about the affair. She was still messaging the AP and I had to ask her to stop, so she messaged him to let him know that she couldn't talk to him anymore. I should have seen the signs, but instead I tried to be open to forgiveness and reconciliation. There were red flags like her minimizing her actions, deflecting, gaslighting, continued secrecy, only admitting to what I asked about, and self-pity. After a month of emotional ups and downs, I finally stayed with a friend and got in touch with a lawyer. To be honest, I'm terrified. I thought this woman was the love of my life and I miss her so deeply. I hope I'm not making a mistake that I'll regret. Thank you for letting me scream into the void somewhat. And we've reached the end of the episode. Thanks for listening. Please remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.